Hello? Taken prisoner and you won't eat like the only food you get all day because your pussy ass friend found a hornet in his soup? More protein for you, baby. Eat up. Did you check out his dick though? That guy was hung. Get a fucking grip, Mitch album. I'm back. Welcome back. We're talking about Margot Robbie's favorite books today because Barbie, the movie, is coming out, I think in like the day after I put this movie out. This isn't a movie. I'd say I don't care about Margot Robbie at all and that this video is just a cash grab, which it is. This is my ploy for the upper echelons of superstardom, but also I actually think Mildred Robbie is a brilliant actress. I remember my sister went to see I, Tonya, and I was like, I'm not watching that. I don't care about ice skating. I don't care about Margot Robbie or anything else. It was like very hyped up when it got released. And then I think 2 years later on a plane, I watched I, Tonya, and I was blown away. Margot Robbie is brilliant. Her role, acting, performance in I, Tonya is one of the best performances I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's brilliant. She's brilliant. Brilliant. I've also seen a bit of her in Suicide Squad, and I thought it was a bit cringy, but what can you do? This video is an ode to Margot Robbie and cash grabs. I've seen Barbie merch and like brand collaboration themes, whatever, in like, well, the only example I can think of right now is makeup, because when I go to Target there are these like big stands and it's like Barbie stuff, but I think a lot of brands have been doing Barbie advertising for like, you know, capitalize off of it. And I was making a video to post a few days ago and I kept seeing Barbie stuff and I was like, ugh. And then I was like, why don't I make a Barbie video? That being Margot Robbie's favorite books. So here we are, about to talk about Margot Robbie's favorite books. I did a quick Google search and some random webpage popped up and it listed like 7 books she recommended and I picked 3. I checked out most of these books from the library because the video was so impromptu and I thought that I wouldn't really like a lot of these books. Plot twist. Stick around, maybe I did. I did like some of the books. But I checked most of them out from the library and I placed holds on like 5 of the books. And so I ended up reading 4 books for this video. Oh, also the album. They've been releasing it like song by song, but the Barbie album, they commissioned a lot of, if you're not familiar, they commissioned a lot of artists to write songs for the movie, and the songs are really good. When I was reading the books for this video, Billie Eilish's song for the album came out. So good. So good. So good. But we're not talking about music. We're talking about books. And the books I read for this video are The Sun Also Rises, Animals by Ernest Hemingway. I forgot to say that. For classics, sometimes I like don't say the author name because the titles have become so ubiquitous themselves and representative of the author. But this is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. The second book I read was Animals by Emma Jane Unsworth. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. And The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This was like the bonus round book that my library hold came up and I was like, sure, I'll do it. We're just going to talk about these books one by one, what I thought of them, maybe a bit about what they're about. if I liked them, if I didn't like them, what I liked, what I didn't like. It's just going to be a little chat. Buckle up, grab a drink, and let's talk about The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I thought I would hate this book. I thought I would hate Hemingway, and for years I've been putting off reading any Hemingway. I think I even talked about it in my last video about how I hated and I still don't like, even though he's dead, R.I.P. Cormac McCarthy. I don't like his books, but I kind of clustered Cormac McCarthy, Ernest Hemingway, and Faulkner into this like Americana Western group, which I don't like those themes of like the West, cowboys, violence, stuff like that. I mean, I'm not opposed to violence, but I don't like it in an Americana context. Anyway, The Sun Also Rises. Yeah. It turns out I actually really enjoyed The Sun Also Rises. I mean, obviously it's apish of me to group 3 prolific writers into like one group. Like if they were really that indistinguishable, there wouldn't be 3 of them as famous as they are, you know? But I knew that. I didn't want to pick up, I never had any inclination to pick up Hemingway. I remember there was this one kid on a school trip I went on, and he was like, "So you read?" And I was like, "I guess." And he was like, "Have you read Hemingway?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, I love Hemingway. Hemingway's my favorite author. The Old Man and the Sea is brilliant." And I was like, maybe Hemingway's not for me, because he was a little bit obnoxious, like the stereotypical person who you would imagine would love Hemingway or Faulkner or anyone else. So the moral of this story, the moral of the tangent, the thesis of the tangent is that I thought I wouldn't like Hemingway, and here we are. And I remember reading the first few pages of this in Whole Foods with my brother, and like actually chuckling out loud. This book is so funny. The banter in this, the like dialogue, it made me feel like I was a TikTok girly reading, I don't know, like Colleen Hoover or whatever is banging with the banter. Like when people say banter, I got it with The Sun Also Rises. It's very funny, very approachable. I was like actually cackling out loud. The banter reminded me a lot of, what's his name? Joseph Heller's Catch-22. Ernest Hemingway and Joseph Heller do this thing where it's like 2 things. One, in dialogue, like when 2 characters are talking in a conversation, it'll be very cyclical and kind of like silly, but intentionally and straight-faced, dry humor, redundant and stupid. But it's so funny and so effective, and both Catch-22 and The Sun Also Rises had me laughing out loud at points. The Catch-22 is in one of my other videos, but I've said this before, but I didn't finish it even though I had a really good time. That type of like cyclical dialogue becomes grating after a while. This book is only 200 pages, so it didn't become grating. The second thing that I said both of them do is they'll like repeat a word a lot, and that goes within conversations and then kind of out. Like on one page he says shook hands, I think is the phrase, 7 times. I like counted, I underlined it. I don't know what page it's on. I'm not going to find the page. But it's really funny. I really like Ernest Hemingway's writing also. One of the reviews, the New York Times, blurbs on the back of the book, and they say, "An absorbing, beautiful, and tenderly absurd, heartbreaking narrative. A truly gripping story told in lean, hard, athletic prose. Magnificent." And I really agree with the last part, the told in lean, hard, athletic prose. It is very, very lean. It's very simple, and it's not ostentatiously simple like how I think Cormac McCarthy's writing is. Like, Cormac does this thing where it's like very staccato, short sentences, and it's like, look at how simple I can be. And it feels very show-offy. This feels genuinely just like Ernest Hemingway's writing. It doesn't feel like there's any meta-perception of the reader reading his writing, which like goes in line with the origin story of The Sun Also Rises. I learned a new word, but of course I don't remember it. But there's a word for a novel that's based off of real events, and this is based off of Ernest Hemingway's experience, like real life experience. And then he wrote the first draft with the original people's names, and then fictionalized it. I haven't even told you what this book is about. It's about a group of expatriates. I don't know how old they are, like relatively young, around 30, living in Paris because they're expatriates. They're Americans. Or British. I think some are Americans, and who's to say? I think it might be a mix. I don't know. Anyway, it's a group of expatriates wherever they're expatriated from, and they're just traipsing around Paris and later Spain. The like bulk of this book, I think, is in Spain watching bullfights. Margot Robbie blurbs the books on the website I pulled these from, and she'll like talk about what she loves most from the book. And the blurb she has for why she likes this book is because she likes the bullfighting descriptions, which I did not like. They become so grating. I want to say redundant, but they're not redundant. I just didn't like them. They're like intense descriptions of bullfighting, which are like here's a page. That's a lie. That's not one of them. But like, I just didn't want to be reading about bulls, like the animal, for page after page. And like a lot of people say that's what they love about this novel. I couldn't get behind it. I still haven't told you what the novel's about. It's a group of expatriates traipsing around Paris, and it's about their relationships and kind of like their debauchery and indolence. Traipsing, you know, they're just kind of like drinking, bantering, stuff like that. But the bullfighting, here's an example of a paragraph where I was just like, too much. I don't care at all. Quote, "The steer was down now, his neck stretched out, his head twisted, he lay the way he had fallen. Suddenly the bull left off and made for the other steer, which had been standing at the far end, his head swinging, watching it all. The steer ran awkwardly, and the bull caught him, hooked him lightly in the flank, and then turned away and looked up at the crowd on the walls, his crest of muscle rising. The steer came up to him and made as though to nose at him, and the bull hooked perfunctorily. The next time he nosed at the steer, and the two of them trotted over to the other bull. When the next bull came out, all three, the two bulls and the steer, stood together, their heads side by side, their horns against the newcomer. In a few minutes, the steer picked the new bull up, quieted him down, and made him one of the herd. When the last two bulls had been unloaded, the herd were all together." Like, if you're not bored as shit by the end of my monologue of reading this book, like, who are you? Like, do you have a fetish for bulls? Like, what's up? That's not the only example. That's like an earlier one. It's on page 112, but they're like intense ones later on in the book. Like I said, I enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I would. I was laughing out loud. At the beginning is like perfect. I love the parts that are set in Paris. When they go abroad, I kind of like I didn't enjoy it as much. I think part of the reason that I didn't love some of the like intense scenery descriptions or whatever. They're not like scenery, like intense actions that I have no relation to. And a lot of authors do this to like set the mood, set the scene, whatever, put you there, take you there. And I like it to varying degrees. I think it's heavily reliant on how fast you read the novel. For me, this would be like a beach read. I could see myself really enjoying this in a sun-soaked malaise, just kind of like, you know, taking it easy, having a drink, non-alcoholic, and just like reading it. I felt calm reading this book. I read the New York Times blurb that says it's heartbreaking. It's not like heartbreaking, it's just kind of like mundanely sad. I like that the novel opens with and focuses on a like side main character. I would say the book is about, and well, the like back says it's also about Jake Barnes and Lady Brett Ashley and their relationship, but it's their relationship within a group of friends. I think that's really effective and very simple but clever. It's like a clever idea with a very simple execution, but super effective. It is pretty sad. I mean, when I think of heartbreaking, I think of like Sobbing on the Floor, like The Great Believers, The Dutch House, you know, stuff like that. But Robert Cohn's story is like sad and pathetic, and then the relationship between Jake and Brett itself is also very sad. Oh, here's a really good quote. You know, it makes one feel rather good deciding not to be a bitch. It's sort of what we have instead of God. Amen. Amen. I did get a little bored in certain parts, like I said, I think. But overall, I really, really enjoyed this. And I would read it again. I'm looking forward to... It's a book of stories. I don't think it's nonfiction. Maybe it is nonfiction. I think it is nonfiction. It's Ernest Hemingway's travels in Paris. What is it called? A Movable Feast. I have that book, and I'm really looking forward to reading it because this is a fictionalized account of his time in Paris and the bullfights in Spain. And A Movable Feast, I think, is stories from his time in Spain. Not Spain. I said I didn't like the Spain parts as much. From his time in Paris. Not stories. I don't know. But it's about his time, fiction or not, in Paris. And that was my favorite part of The Sun Also Rises, so I'm really looking forward to that. Just to reiterate and be redundant, I can't emphasize how much I love the beginning of this book. The first paragraph, focusing on the side character, is brilliant, and it sets the tone perfectly for the rest of the book. The first sentence is, Robert Cohn was once middleweight boxing champion of Princeton, and then the last two sentences are, I never met anyone of his class who remembered him. They did not even remember that he was middleweight boxing champion. So perfect. So great. And then like a second later, still on the first page, he goes, I always had a suspicion that perhaps a horse had stepped on his face. Hemingway's funny. He's funny. He's really funny. In dialogue and in descriptions, I had laughs. I really laughed. In the very beginning of the novel, the narrator Jake is with an escort, I'm pretty sure. And the escort is so funny. I really recommend this book. I would take it slow. Take it on a trip. I feel like this is the perfect book to take on a trip. I had a really good time, and I'm looking forward to reading more Hemingway. I don't know where I'll go next. I was at the bookstore the other day, and I glanced at the Hemingway books, and I don't know what the proper next Hemingway book is. This was the first book he wrote. Well, the first book he published. I'm pretty sure he wrote a book before this that he and Gertrude Stein, another person from The Lost Generation. The Lost Generation, if you didn't know, and I wasn't entirely sure, it's like the people who lived during and after World War One. Gertrude Stein is one of them, but they didn't like the novel, and I think someone stole it in a suitcase. Yeah, I don't know where to go after this. I would appreciate any help. I'm sure I'll read A Movable Feast eventually. I thought that would be my first Hemingway, but do I do A Farewell to Arms? The Old Man in the Sea? I don't know. You tell me. Yeah. Let me know if you've read this book, what you think. I would recommend it. Apart from the bull descriptions, cut the bull, Hemingway. I guess you could skim read, speed read. I don't know. Like skim. I can't skim books. I'm like an awful skimmer. I just can't do it. I don't know. I don't know how you know that you're skipping unimportant information if you're skipping it. I don't know. Drop some tips on how to speed read, skim read. The next book I read was Emma Jane's The next book I read was Emma Jane Unsworth's Animals, and I thought I really wouldn't love this. I had a sneaking suspicion it might be good, because the publisher also publishes Elena Ferrante's novels, and I love those books. But I really, really like this book. This book is actually surprisingly similar to The Sun Also Rises in that it's about the relationships between a few people, primarily two women. And it follows their debauchery and listlessness that masks a kind of inner deficit of happiness or contentedness. And that's always a fun theme. Animals is a lot, I mean, you can tell from the cover, it's a lot more vulgar than The Sun Also Rises. Than, I don't know. But it's vulgar, it's funny, it's really funny, but it's also super, super clever and smart. It's well written. If you don't like graphic books, like sex, drugs, alcohol, this book isn't for you. But if you enjoy a nice, vulgar book that belies a weightier core, this book is for you. I haven't read any Eve Babbitt's, but this book is what I imagine to be the love child of Eve Babbitt's and Ottessa Moshfegh, in that it's absurd, it's a bit caustic, it's abrasive, but it's also very smart. From what I hear, Eve Babbitt was like a California party girl, and these are two, I think, British... I don't know where this is set. Somewhere in the UK. I don't know what the UK is either. Like which countries constitute the UK. But it's just these two girls. It's a first person narration and of one of the girls. And it follows the two girls partying. Living it up. Having sex, doing drugs, drinking a lot. Most of the blurbs on this book blurb it as... Here's one says, an utterly triumphant ode to female friendship. Another says, a fervid tale of female friendship. Another one says female friendship. And I think that's a bit misleading. Like, this book is not about female friendship to me. It heavily focuses on female friendship, but I think it's about being alone within the context of very close relationships, or being alone amongst people. Like, you can still be very alone despite spending a lot of time with someone in a relationship and in friendships. You can still feel very isolated, alone, whatever. And I think that's more what this book is about. It follows the main character's name, who I don't even remember her name. One of the girls is named Tyler. What's her name? Laura. The narrator, Laura, I think the book is more about her experience being lonely within the context of an intense female friendship and a relationship with a man, her boyfriend. So I think female friendship is more the mode of conveying what this book is about, which is being lonely ultimately, than what the book is actually about. I mean, it does focus a lot on female friendship, but I think it's a bit misleading to be like, oh, this is a tale of two girls who just live it up, because it's ultimately not. I highly, highly recommend Emma Jane Unsworth's Animals. If you're looking for a fun, vulgar time that is ultimately very grounded and moving, it's sad too, and at parts. I mean, I've hinted at it because, like I said, it's ultimately like about one person who is alone, whatever, but has close relationships with other people. It's fun, it's very funny, it's very smart, and it's sad a bit. I probably said all of those three things like 6 times at this point, but this is a library book, like I said, so normally I annotate books. Well, not normally. I recently started annotating books, actually, but I was trying to flip through to find a good quote to read to you, but I instead kept a notes app of, like, my thoughts. Let me pull up a good quote for you. This one's funny. Quote, I tried to picture them having sex. Jacqueline homicidal with productivity, him rigid with generosity. Neither of them speaking before, during, or after. The inarticulate conception. So good. So funny. Savage, biting. Let me find you a less vulgar quote, too. Two short quotes I really liked. You beautiful bovine bitch. And the universe is not indifferent, the universe is amused. And then there's one long quote that I'm trying to find that is really good. It's like a bit longer, just like longer than 5 words. Okay, I found the quote. Here it is. Quote, our pornographic appetite for contrition. You have to be sorry for everything all the time. Are you sorry you ate all those burgers? Are you sorry you smoked all those cigarettes? Are you sorry you said that dumb thing online? It's not morality, it's just another fix, another kind of greed. Give me all your sorry, I'm so hungry for sorry, but sorry changes nothing. Amen. Amen. Yeah, it's really good. I checked this book out from the library and listened to the audiobook, which my library also had, and read along while I read this book, which I do for some books, if I like the narrator, or if I'm just like, I need to keep pace. I was trying to keep pace, so this movie, it's not a fucking movie, so this video could come out before the Barbie movie, but I actually really, really loved the audiobook narrator, and this was one of the rare instances where the audiobook added to my experience. The narrator of this, I don't know where she's from. British? It doesn't sound British. Well, it like sounds from somewhere in the UK. Maybe like it. I think it's one of I think the narrator is like from a suburb in England. Not suburb. I don't know. Like it's a dialect. It's not proper British English. I say like I know anything about the regional dialects of London and its surrounding area. But I love the narrator's voice, and she does a perfect reading of this book. It reminded me of, I think it's a Netflix show, but it's called The End of the Fucking World, I think. Let me Google it, because it's a really good TV show, and I recommend it. Both The End of the Fucking World, yep, that's the name. There are 2 seasons, and I love them. It follows a guy and a girl, and the girl in the TV show sounds super similar to the narrator of the audiobook for this book, and I really enjoyed that. Both the narrator, I'm getting mixed up. There are 3 people. There's like the book narrator, then there's the audiobook person who reads this, and then there's the girl from the TV show. The girl from the TV show and the book narrator, not the person who reads it, although she brings to life what I'm trying to say, which is that both have this sort of oxymoronic wise petulance. They're both bratty girls, but they seem both very life seasoned per se and wise. You know what I'm talking about if you've read this book or seen the TV show. Before reading the books for this video, I had never heard of animals, and like The Sun Also Rises, I was very pleasantly surprised, even more so than The Sun Also Rises. I really like this book, and I will be recommending it to any of my friends who's down for a vulgar time. Let me know if you've read this. I don't know if I'm underestimating the popularity of this book, but I'd never heard of it. I haven't seen it in bookstores. What can you do? But I love this book. I ordered a copy 10 pages in off eBay for $4. Which is delivered. I haven't got it from my mailbox yet. But it's really good. I'm going to go back through the book and annotate using my notes app, notes on the book. And the ending is great. Read this book. If you're a prude, don't read this book. Don't read this book. It's not for you. But if you don't mind, for the 6th time, if you don't mind vulgar shit, you will love this book. Also, do you like Eve Babbitt's? I've been putting Babbitt's off for a long time because she's gotten a lot of hype in these spheres, these internet spheres, And I usually become pretty wary of jumping on a bandwagon because I'm different and I want to be different. I just get wary of books that are hyped up a lot, especially because then I go in with higher expectations. But let me know if Eve Babbitts is worth the hype. I think that we could get on, but I don't know where to start or like if I want to prioritize her over other books. Let me know. The next book I read is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. Let me preface this and say that if you love this book, if you like this book, if you got something out of this book, if it forced you to do some self-reflection and you're grateful for that and you're a different person for that, I respect it. I respect the hustle and good on you, truly. I think that even bad books, and I think this is a bad book, we'll get to that, even bad art, bad books, whatever, that forces self-reflection is a win, truly. That being said, I really did not like this book. I thought it was stupid and annoying and not very well written. I thought it was cliche both in content and in execution. Like, there are very cliche similes and like descriptions and stuff like that, but I did not like this book. The part that scares me the most about this book is that on the back it's blurbed by Amy Tan, the author of The Joy Luck Club, which I haven't read yet, but I've had for years now, and I think it could be one of my favorite books of all time, or like get up near that echelon, which has forced me to put off reading The Joy Luck Club for like quite a while now. But it scares me that she blurbs this and like is absolutely enamored with it. Like, are you kidding me? This book is not good. It is. I don't even know where to start with how much is wrong with this book, how annoying and like boring and a bit arrogant it is. Like, it is so arrogant to... Sorry, let me tell you what this book is about. Well, like the title says, it's about the 5 people you meet in heaven. I've seen this book everywhere since I grew up. Since I was like a child. Since I was growing up. Or I don't know if it was this book or Mitch Albom's other books, but I swear I've seen his books at every thrift store. Yeah, 2003. So I saw it growing up. I saw one of his books at a thrift store while I was reading this. Actually, I saw 2. One of them was an audiobook. So his books are everywhere. I thought this was like some cult Bible script or something for like recovering addicts. I don't know. But it's not. It's fiction. But it's a fictionalized account of what happens after we die. And I say it's arrogant because it's so uninspired. And the book takes itself so seriously. Like, there's not even a wink to the reader of how absolutely absurdly serious this book takes itself. Like I said, it's very cliche in concept and writing. And it's arrogant to imagine what comes after heaven, but like do it in such an uninspired and definitive way. That's not even my like main gripe with the book. It also has like a ridiculous amount of trauma dumping. It's not like trauma dumping, it just like, this book is short. It's like less than 200 pages and it's like pocket size. Not quite pocket size, but it's short and tiny. And it brings up being a prisoner of war, child death, debilitating injuries, parental negligence / abuse, trauma, what else? Death, obviously. It's just like insane, and there's so much more. It's like you can't tackle all of that in a book this short. It's ridiculous. Like, you at a point it becomes laughably absurd how much like trauma there is in this book. I wrote it down. I'm trying not to rely on notes or whatever so these don't get dull, but it's like absolutely fucking insane how much trauma there is in this book. Let me see what I said. dementia, cancer, impotency, daddy issues. A girl is burned to death, like a little girl. Hello? Hello? Like, you can't, like, you literally cannot cover that much in a book this short, and it's so, like I said, it takes itself so seriously. There's absolutely no nuance. Oh yeah, I guess this like kind of contains spoilers, but like I don't recommend this book to anyone. There are much better books that consider similarly banal themes, but do it so much more creatively, enjoyably, and like down to earth. Those being Michelle Obama's new book, The Light We Carry. If you're interested in a book that accomplishes similar goals that this one purports to accomplish, check out my video. It has like 2 views, but if you're interested, check it out. Also, Olive Kittredge by Elizabeth Strout and Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri are 2 great books about the hardships of life and the mundanity and like isolation and loneliness of life, which this book tries to touch on but does not. Two parts that I thought were like absolutely ridiculous. I'm on my notes app. One of them, this was also a library book, so I couldn't write in it. Otherwise I would just be flipping to them and reading them from the book. But somewhere in the book, he writes, he is 17 reading a comic book. He's too old for such things. Hello? 17? I hate, like, this book is so arrogant. Like, comic books? Really? Comic books are for, like, fucking everyone. Get a fucking grip, Mitch Albom. He was 17. He was too old to be reading comic books. Like, it's like not even a prank. Nothing in this book is a prank. He is so serious about everything. This book is like that one kid in your high school English class who gets a 1050 on the SAT, takes himself extremely seriously, thinks everyone in the class is dumber than him, and thinks he's going to Harvard. Like, hello? Some other highlights. Oh yeah, and did I say this will contain spoilers? Yeah, probably, because you really shouldn't read this book, but at one point, the main character, Eddie, is taken prisoner. Well, it's not at one point. The whole book is a retrospective-ish. I don't know. It's like looking back on his life. He dies, and then he meets 5 people in heaven, and they go over and examine past events in his life. And at one point, he's, in his life, not death, he's taken prisoner, and it goes, I don't think this is a first-person narration. No, it's not. It's third-person, like I thought. It goes, keep in mind they're like starving, beat down, tired, taken prisoner, and forced to work in a coal mine. They're given soup for their like meal, like very meager, not filling food. And Mitch Albom writes, Eddie plucked a dead hornet from the bowl. It was missing its wings. The others stopped eating. Like the other prisoners, like, hello? You're like starving in a war camp, whatever, taken prisoner, and you won't eat like the only food you get all day because your pussy-ass friend found a hornet in his soup? More protein for you, baby. Eat up. Hello? Like, so ridiculous. And then at another point, to escape the camp, it's in like Vietnam or something, I don't know. But it's Eddie, the main character, is a war prisoner with his like 2 or 3 war friends. They're not like friends. They were working together because he was, don't know if he was drafted or what. But to escape, Eddie juggles rocks who he sees the guard trying to juggle rocks, and then he's like, let me try. And he juggles rocks, and then he gets the other guards to come watch, and he keeps juggling rocks, and then he throws them at the guards' faces and like smashes their skulls in, and Mitch Albom describes like their brains and gore trailing out of their skulls, and it's like absolutely ridiculous and comical and so stupid and funny, but he's being like so serious the entire time. Like, be fucking for real, Mitch Albom. Be so fucking for real. Another part I liked was let me backtrack a bit. And then we'll get to the part that I'm talking about. One thing that happens in this novel is that Eddie, the main character's wife, is talking to Eddie on the phone, and Eddie's like, baby, I just bet on these horses and I made $200. And she's like, don't do that, Eddie. And it's Eddie's birthday. And then she hangs up and she feels bad, so she starts driving to the track. And on his birthday, two teenagers like drop a glass bottle on her windshield, and she like swerves the car and crashes, and Mitch Albom writes, and her body was flung like a doll. And it's like, that is such a cliche simile, first of all. And second of all, she proceeds to become injured in hospital for the next 6 months, bedridden, while her husband on his birthday is like out betting on horses. Like, it's way too on the nose to actually be tragic. And then she gets cancer. So funny, so funny. Oh yeah, the part that I liked is the car she's driving to the horse ring, or whatever the fuck you call it, to be like, baby, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, you can bet on all the horses. They need money to adopt a child because Eddie is impotent. I'm not rolling my eyes at like at wanting to adopt a child or impotency. It's just like the like depressing after depressing that's like I've said for the billionth time, is so absurd. The part I love is that she's driving to the horse ice skating rink, whatever the hell, and he goes, she was driving her second-hand car. Hello? Like, she's some sort of fucking hobo because she drives a second-hand car. Like, bitch, I drive a second-hand car. Hello? I am not homeless. I am far from it, baby. Like, good on you if you like buy new cars. I remember in 9th grade algebra class, we did this little PERT, compound, continuously, whatever, half-life, something. And there was this stat that was like, cars depreciate by 50% as soon as you drive them out of the parking lot. I know that used car prices, we're not going down a rabbit hole about used cars, but like, you're not poor if you drive a used car. Like, absolutely no sympathy from me, baby. But it's just absurd. Like, hello? And then I love how the picture is a Ferris wheel, because the way Eddie dies is he's at the amusement park that he works at for like decades because he never gets his life together. Another depressing aspect of this book. And he gets like, you know those rides that people sit in? I mean, but it's like a tower and then it drops? Well, that ride is happening and it malfunctions somehow and Eddie gets like crushed under it. I don't know. Let's see what else I have to say about this. Oh yeah, but what this book is about, the overarching theme of this book is that heaven is for making sense of what happened to you for life, In Mitch Albom's words, the quote's on my phone. The quote is important because the wording is like so, I mean, he says it word for word. Like I said, there is absolutely no subtlety in this book. He beats you upside the head with trauma and the most cliche, banal philosophies that everyone should, like, know by this point. Like, if you're reading these freak-ass books, like, you don't even have to be a reader to understand how cliche a lot of these philosophies are. I really believe that people can arrive at the same conclusions in life via different avenues. Like, I can read a lot of books and come to the same conclusions that someone who's never read a book in their life can. But the wording, like I said, he's beating you upside the head. Mitch Albom says, heaven is for understanding your life on earth. Like, no, bitch. If you haven't been doing some self-reflection on God's green grass, you have been doing something wrong. Like, I hate that sentiment. And then he goes on to say, this is another direct quote, "This is the greatest gift God can give you, to understand what happened in your life, to have it explained. It is the peace you have been searching for." I know that quote is kind of redundant, but it's important for the last sentence of it, which is, what is it? It is the peace you have been searching for. The implications of that are that, one, peace is unattainable on earth, and two, that searching for peace on earth or like meaning for your life causes you distress. And I hate that sentiment. I completely disagree with it. I think that's such a like cucked life philosophy and such a like bratty take. It's like, no, like do some self-reflection on earth and also like let shit fucking go. Like you do not need to make sense of everything that happens in your life. Trying will only cause you pain. And it's like crazy to read a book that is so popular and I see everywhere, and for the overarching philosophy to be like, be a brat while you're here on earth, be upset, try and find meaning, but you'll never find peace, and then wait till you die. Like, why not kill yourself ASAP so that you can get the peace you've been searching for, is like the logical conclusion of like one interpretation of what Mitch Albom is saying. Like, although I guess you'd go to hell if you killed yourself. I hate it. I really think that you don't need to find deeper meaning. You don't need to reevaluate your life experiences to find peace. Like, live and let be. You gotta let shit go. I think one of the best novels that explores that theme of like, you have to let it go, you can't let searching for meaning and answers consume your life, is Donna Tartt's The Little Friend. I think that finishing that book was when that life philosophy of like, let shit go, move on, like you can't find answers to everything in your life really clicked with me. And a lot of people hate The Little Friend. It's why it has such a poor rating on Goodreads. It's for that philosophy, the like main philosophy. It's because of that. I wouldn't recommend reading The Little Friend to anyone who hasn't already read one of her other novels. I mean, start with The Little Friend by all means. I just mean I wouldn't recommend it as first because I wouldn't be sure that you even like Donna Tartt's writing. Like, if you like the secret history for how Donna Tartt writes it, not for the like flashy plot, which it has a flashy plot, hook, whatever, it's perfectly paced. I'm not going into how perfect the secret history is. It's super, super well written. And that's why I love Donna Tartt, not for the flashy plot, but if you like her writing, you'll like The Little Friend. Anyway. It's great. Oh, the philosophy, the like overarching philosophy in The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, ironically, directly contrasts a quote from The Sun Also Rises. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. I found the quote from The Sun Also Rises, which is directly, I've said this, directly contrasts Mitch Albom's philosophy. And I like the quote of its own accord, which is why I remembered it when I was reading The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. I actually didn't read most of it. I listened to most of it on fucking audiobook because I did not like it. But the quote from The Sun Also Rises is, "Enjoying living was learning to get your money's worth and knowing when you had it. You could get your money's worth. The world was a good place to buy in. I did not care what it was all about. All I wanted to know was how to live in it." Like, amen. Like, you don't need to know what it's all about. And, like, let it go. Learn how to live some. Learn how to let shit go. I do not recommend The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And I don't know what the solace in reading Mitch Albom's book is. It's like, you'll never find peace on earth, but rest assured, when you get to heaven, it'll all make sense. Like, that's such a bleak, morbid, awful, sinister, mean take. I didn't like this book. I would apologize for, like, not liking it and saying I didn't like it. I don't like reading books I think I won't like. It's another conversation, but Margot Robbie recommended this, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I will like it, but I'm not gonna front on my fucking little YouTube channel. Like, are you kidding me? Like I'm saying, I would apologize, but the people who like this book and would get angry at me for my opinion are the type of people who don't deserve an apology. Like, you should be able to have your own opinions and be confident and secure and happy in them. So I'm not going to apologize. But I truly do respect people's taste. Obviously, imagine, like, starting a YouTube channel about books and, like, not respecting diversity in opinion. I think that's all I'm going to say on The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. Let me know what you thought. If you love it, I would love for you to leave me a comment. I'm not, like, trying to dissuade you from liking or engaging in discussion. I mean, leave me a hate comment too. You won't, pussy. Do it. The last book I read is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. Like I said, I had originally planned to read these 3 books. I thought it was a nice assortment, like a classic, a modern lit fic, and whatever the fuck this was. But then my hold became available for The Magicians at the same time that the one for The 5 People You Meet in Heaven did. And I was gonna give it back to the people at the library counter and be like, I don't need this anymore. But when I was, like, pulling this from the hold shelf at my library, like, if you place a hold, it goes on a special shelf for you to get. But I picked up the book and I turned it over to look at the blurbs, which is one way that I gauge my aptitude for enjoyment of a certain book by, like, publications. Oh, I almost donated my bookmark back to the library. That would have been tragic. But like I was saying, blurbs, particularly from authors that I really love on the backs of books, are, like, a good guide for me. Have been in the past for if I would like a book. And George R.R. Martin says about The Magicians, "The Magicians is to Harry Potter as a shot of Irish whiskey is to a glass of weak tea, solidly rooted in the traditions of both fantasy and mainstream literary fiction. This novel tips its hat to Oz and Narnia as well as to Harry, but don't mistake this for a children's book. Grossman's sensibilities are thoroughly adult, his narrative dark and dangerous and full of twist. Hogwarts was never like this." Very high praise. Very high praise. I feel like George R.R. Martin wrote this after people wanted to cancel J.K. Rowling. After she was canceled, I don't know. After people got mad at her. But he's going a bit too far. Harry Potter is amazing, obviously. But The Magicians, I was super surprised to find that I really, really enjoyed this book. Which is why I, like, really like doing these celebrity book videos. I mean, I know the concept is, like, super used up and shit, but it's, like, a very fun way of being exposed to books like Animals and The Magicians that I don't think I ever would have picked these books up, considering how many books I own and want to read. I also wouldn't have picked up Hemingway. I love doing the celebrity book videos because there's like a page of their favorite books and it's usually like 5 to 10 and I get to choose like three or four in this case that I think I will enjoy or at least have an experience with of sorts. Hopefully a positive one. I'm rambling. I really, really like The Magicians. I remember reading this book and it was really good. It's about Quentin, who is a high school senior, I think, and he's applying to college and he ends up getting recruited for a magical school, and it follows his experience at the school and a significant portion, like it's divided into parts, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Well, I do know. It is divided into parts, and a good chunk of the book is post-graduation. They go on like a quest, and it's really good. It's very enjoyable. I did cringe a bit. We'll get to that. For the most part, I really enjoyed this. I love the beginning of the novel particularly, which focuses on his introduction to the wizarding world, and he takes like a test, and it really reminded me of the examination in the children's series The Mysterious Benedict Society, which I love. It was really cozy, as they say. It was fun. I don't read much fantasy. I don't know why. I do really enjoy fantasy. I loved A Game of Thrones. I love The Hobbit. I plan on reading The Lord of the Rings sometime, hopefully this fall. I've read the first half of the first book twice, and I couldn't get into it, but I was like a fucking ape of a, 10-year-old or something like that. So I'm looking forward to giving those another shot. I'm just not well versed in like what good fantasy is out there. And there are just books that I own that aren't fantasy and I'm looking forward to reading, so I'm not gonna like go out of my way to explore an entirely new genre and do like the grunt work of reading books I don't like to find out the ones I do like. I do like fantasy though. If you have recommendations for someone who loves A Game of Thrones, for me, like fantasy recs for me, who happens to like A Game of Thrones, The Hobbit, and The Magicians, drop them in the comments. Anyway, this book is very, very good. Very enjoyable. If you liked Harry Potter growing up, you would like this book. It's like very fun. I was engrossed in the story. I love how Lev Grossman, he like peppers like little tidbits, seeds per se, that later reappear in the novel, and you get these like snaps of satisfaction and like, oh, cool. It also had 2 plot twists. One of them was like kind of a gimme. It's like, of course, you know. The other is like, oh, that's pretty cool. I love a good plot twist, and the like groundwork for each plot twist is there, which is why one of them is so guessable. And plot twists should be guessable, even if to a very minuscule degree, for them to be fair and enjoyable. Like, they can't come out of nowhere. I also like that this book is structured around 2 universes. It's like you have the book, The Magicians, and then the characters in the books. Let me get this straight. The characters in The Magicians like this children's book series that's kind of like Narnia, but it's called, I don't remember what it's called. It is, let me see if it's on the flap. I don't know, but the characters in The Magicians like these children's books that are about kids who go to a magical land called Fillory. I like the interplay between the book story and then the like stories within the stories. I think that's really well done. It didn't drag for me. I like really look forward to reading this book. Also, I believed, like, I was able to fall into the story a bit, you know? Like, I felt that this was a different universe out there, and that even though, to me, it's not, like, plausible that was only apparent after taking a step back, like putting the book down. But when I was reading it, I was like, oh, like, yeah, I buy it. Like, I think that's what Harry Potter does so well, is you, like, believe that that is an entirely... You just believe it's a universe, you know? I think what prompts my saying that, the, like, believability or whatever, in, like, something that's clearly not, like, it's about magic, is a book I was reading for a video. The video that was supposed to come out a few days ago now, and before this video. And it's a fantasy novel. Stick around if you want to hear my intense thoughts on it. Intense. Just, like, more thoughts. But it's just, like, so not... I didn't buy it. And for that reason, I'm out. But The Magicians is great. And I really enjoyed it. The parts that I didn't enjoy, or I mean, like, I enjoyed them because they were absurd and stupid. I wrote them down on my little notes app. Like, I don't... There's, like, a fox fucking scene, and I was like, could have done without that. I didn't need that. Oh, one of my, like, kind of, like, gripes with this book is Alice, one of the main characters. I think that her characterization is a bit inconsistent. I don't know if it's inconsistent or I just didn't like her very much. But she's introduced as being, like, super quiet and shy and, like, I don't know, whatever. Like, that characterization, and then she, like, becomes, like, kind of annoying, and I don't know. I didn't love where her personality went. She annoyed me a little bit, but ultimately I like her. The part that I thought was, like, fucking silly as shit is, like, you're reading a fantasy novel, and, like, sure, it's not for children. There's, like, sex in here and stuff. Between more than just foxes. Here's a quote about a, like, magic creature. A, like, ogre per se, if you will. A giant who's made of, like, molten lava. And here's the quote. His huge, hairless, glowing red cock and balls swung loosely between his thighs. Hello? Hello? I was, like, reading about these kids doing little magic spells, and then I'm, like, hit in the face with a cock. I was like, I felt mildly assaulted, and I was like, what the literal hell? Like, Lev Grossman was writing this book, and he was like, you know, like, in the heat of the action, what would play better than me creating a molten lava giant and then describing in fairly extreme detail his cock and balls, his glowing red hairless cock and balls. And then later in the climax of the action, one of the characters, they, like, escape this giant. And one of the characters goes, did you check out his dick, though? That guy was hung. That kind of, like, reminded me of why I don't like a lot of Marvel movies. I mean, I love an action movie. I love a silly, stupid superhero movie. But I don't like... I think it might be particularly recent movies as... I don't know if it was marked by Guardians of the Galaxy. Is that even Marvel? I don't know. It is, I'm pretty sure. But I hate humor in action movies. I just hate it. I don't like the cringe, low-hanging fruit humor of, like, Marvel, what they do. Like, I just find it cringy. Like, I'll be, like, really invested in the silly-ass action, like, heart-pumping, and then some character will say something stupid like his glowing red cock and balls. And I just don't love that. Another experience I had with this book was I would, like, read a sentence and I'd be like, wow, George R.R. Martin really read that same sentence as me. And I did this, like, a lot. Especially with the cock and balls part. If I were the editor of this novel, I would have been like, cut that shit, Lev. What are you doing? Like, I just don't get it. I don't love the, like... Like, you don't need to add sex, descriptions of cock and balls to your novel to make it an adult. It seems like that's an anxiety that authors have when writing fantasy novels, that they want it to be adult fantasy. And so they don't put in, they like jam in abruptly these like sexual descriptions, references, scenes, and it's just like so jarring and out of place. And it's like, I promise this is an adult novel. Look, I just put this extremely absurd sentence in. Like, you don't need adult content. I'm not a prude by any means. I love a good sexual debauchery book. I love Bret Easton Ellis. I think his sexual debauchery is pitch perfect. But it was just a bit silly here. Overall, though, I really, really enjoyed this book. The last part was just me being nitpicky for the sake of transparency or whatever. But I really, really liked it. I'm pretty sure it's a trilogy. I did a little bit of like Googling while I was reading it, but I didn't want it to spoil the book any. Like, a lot of sequel titles spoil the first book, which I talk about, or hopefully I'll mention in the next video, if I remember to. But I try not to do any research on a book when I'm reading it because I don't want it to be spoiled. But I'm almost sure I'll have to do more research after I finish filming this video. I'm almost certain it's a trilogy, and I'm looking forward to reading the other books. I don't know when I'll get around to it, but if I see them at thrift stores, I will certainly pick them up. If you've read all of them, let me know what you think. Yeah, that's it. Overall, I really enjoyed these books, way more than I thought I would. I wouldn't have picked up any of these books, probably ever, except for The Sun Also Rises, and that probably would have been in like years because I had little to no desire to read it. But 3 out of 4 books, Margot? 1 miss is not bad. Not bad at all. I had a great time reading these books. I would recommend all of them, except for The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, with the like caveats or whatever that I listed. Like, if you like fantasy, read The Magicians. If you like Harry Potter, read The Magicians. If you like Catch-22, if you like a bit of classics, if you like Cormac McCarthy, you'll like Ernest Hemingway, I'm almost certain. It's like the squares and rectangles thing, with Ernest Hemingway being the square. You know, like, if you like squares, you'll know Cormac is the square. Rectangles are squares. Or are squares rectangles? Scratch the metaphor. If you like Cormac, you'll like Hemingway. If you like laughing, you'll like Hemingway. And if you like a vulgar romp that's very smart also, read Animals. And if you hate yourself, read The 5 People You Meet in Hell. That's it for this video. Margot has great taste. I never know if these celebrities actually read these books. Sometimes they feel like awfully curated to a public persona, but also it's just like hard to imagine celebrities doing anything other than like filming their movies and then like laying down in a cryogenic coffin and waiting to be casted in something else. I don't know. I believe Margot. I believe you, Margot. She blurbed all of these books. I think I have it in my notes app, what she said. We can go through them before we deuce out of here. For Hemingway, she said, "Once I got to The Running of the Bulls, this book became everything to me. It was like I'd stepped into a completely different world." Like, yeah, it's a completely different world and one that's boring as shit. For Animals, she says, "If you were in your early 20s living in London as a girl in the last decade, then you should read this book. You're going to feel so seen." I guess. I think that there's a broader audience that can enjoy this book, which is not contradictory to what Margot says, but I think her blurb is a little bit silly. For 5 People, she says, "This book means everything to me. I love it. I don't know why. It's just a really beautiful book. Okay, Margot. And then for magicians, she says, like a grown-up Harry Potter. Do you think she read these books? Let me know in the comments. That's it. It was good to chat with you. I'll see you soon. Bye.